Okay. Good morning. My name is Julia LaForce, and I am a third-year student studying biochemistry and French at CU Boulder. I have been a member of Lutheran Campus Ministry since my freshman year, and it has been one of my favorite student organizations. I have also had the opportunity to serve on our campus ministry student leadership team and on the Lutheran Student Movement National Council. I am very excited to be speaking here today. When I was younger, my little sister and I watched this movie together called A Miracle from Heaven. I don't know if anyone here has seen this movie, but it tells the story of a young girl suffering from a rare chronic disease who has a near-death experience during which she has a vision from God. In this vision, God promises to heal her, and when the little girl is conscious again, she is cured of her rare disease. I think this movie was supposed to be inspiring and motivational, but my little sister absolutely hated it, saying that it was terrifying. At the time, my little sister and I shared a room, and for a couple of weeks after we watched the movie, she would wake me up in the middle of the night because she was scared. Now, I didn't find this movie particularly scary while I was watching it, and frankly, I probably told her that she was being dramatic. After being woken up every night, I quickly became annoyed with her and less sympathetic. But we were talking the other day, and thankfully now I don't find her as annoying. And I said to her, you know, Christina, I'm really glad that this pandemic didn't happen when you were young, because you would have been so scared that neither of us would have gotten any sleep. I can't imagine what it must be like to be a child during this pandemic. When I was younger, I think it was easy to convince myself that if you followed a set of rules, if you didn't sin, if you prayed, then you wouldn't get sick, then nothing bad would happen to you. Or maybe there would be some miracle from God. Gradually, I learned that this wasn't exactly the case. My sister, when she was young, had reason to be scared. There's no set formula to protect us, and frankly, no one can promise us that we will be fine. This pandemic has certainly highlighted the harsh reality of illness and its indiscriminate nature, and to anyone, especially to a child, that must be incredibly overwhelming and terrifying. In the Gospel reading, we see Jesus enter the house of a woman and seamlessly rid her of her disease, healing her. He then heals those throughout the town, casting out their demons, curing whoever the town brought forth, regardless who they were, regardless their backgrounds, regardless who suffered the most. To some, this healing without question, this healing not based on merit, may seem unfair. Perhaps those who are the most ill should take precedence over others. Yet Jesus cured in no specific order, but he cured all. Jesus then leaves to travel to more towns where he will cure more, where he will cast out more demons. This story of healing is especially relevant to the current state of our world, where so many are suffering from illness and so many are losing hope, struggling to recognize the healing that God does, disheartened by the suffering that seems so persistent and never-ending. And although relevant to the struggles that we have all faced due to COVID, this passage also provides insight into the general healing as we see it in our community, in our society today. A few years ago, I was certified as a nursing assistant, and since then, I have worked in various healthcare settings. My first job was on the Alzheimer's floor in a nursing home. When I first started, I wasn't entirely sure what to expect, and I definitely underestimated how difficult the job would be. The severity of the symptoms from which my patients suffered varied dramatically and randomly. Some of my patients were older and yet fairly coherent, whereas others were the same age as my parents, and yet they could barely speak or could barely walk. I frequently wondered how some patients could be so young and yet so affected by Alzheimer's, whereas in others, this disease would progress at a slower pace. I wondered how the progression of a disease could be so inconsistent and so unfair. As I began to work in different healthcare settings, not only did I continue to notice the susceptibility that some individuals had to illness compared to others, but I also noticed the stark contrast in the quality of healthcare that many different patients received. The access we have to healthcare, that we have to medications and treatments, depends on various factors, which oftentimes leaves the most susceptible, the most ill, without sufficient care. Even more so, the disproportionate effects that illness and disease can have on our society and our world has only been further amplified by this pandemic. Some of us are incredibly susceptible to the repercussions of contracting COVID, whereas others have no symptoms. This pandemic certainly has left some of us feeling hopeless and confused, questioning this inconsistency in both severity of symptoms and quality of treatment. But in this reading, there lies a sense of hope for all of us who struggle to understand this pandemic. Certainly, illness and disease that persisted in the town from the reading is similar to our current state. Some suffered from severe illness, some struggled against demons, and some were perfectly healthy. And yet Jesus appeared in this small town and went about healing all who came forth with illness. Without question, he healed. The community came together and brought Jesus all their sick, regardless their sicknesses, regardless who they were. And Jesus healed them all because God heals indiscriminately. In this town, the compassion of a community allowed for so many to be cured. There was no entitlement to different treatments, to better treatments. Whoever the community brought forth was cured. This passage is hopeful, and a reminder that God recognizes all of our suffering, a reminder that healing through community is more effective than healing individually. The past several months, we have all felt a shared sense of desperation and perhaps struggled to remain optimistic in such difficult times. But fortunately, for many of us right now, there is some light at the end of the tunnel. The distribution of the vaccine and the potential that life will return to some sort of normalcy is relieving. Yet, the distribution of the vaccine is discriminate. Ideally, those most susceptible to the virus will receive it first. In the reading, Jesus may have healed indiscriminately, but he also healed all. The vaccine distribution is discriminate, and currently it is only available to cure some. This distribution exists right now because our community does not have the necessary resources to cure everyone. But there is hope, too, in our community coming together to prioritize those with the greatest need, and eventually, through communal efforts, we, like Jesus in the gospel reading, have the potential to cure all. There is so much that can be learned through this gospel reading, so much relevance to our lives. And honestly, so much that I could have taken from this reading and used to perhaps calm my sister when she was younger. Perhaps I could have offered her some advice, and we both would have gotten some more sleep. Hopefully for all of us, especially in a time of such distress, knowing that although some people get sick for reasons that we cannot always explain, there is hope in our community to heal as God intends, to heal all those who the community brings forth, and to heal indiscriminately.